Okay, well, thank you all for attending today. Rough day. As you know, no good. That's just what I need. I'm not going to repeat myself. All right. Oh, I don't even have my mic on. That'll work. It should be nice and high. A lot of little noises. All right. So I think that's better. Yeah. All right. So today is going to be a memorial to uh, Annie Jean. Yeah. She amazing. Yeah, say the least. Yeah, always happy. Yesterday she left her body. Lama Will found her and called me, and I found her. And she had been dead for several hours, and pretty easy to figure that one out. Yeah. And she died very peacefully, and she pretty much left her body as she was getting out of the chair and fell to the ground and made no other movements. You can see her legs had not gone anywhere. Her arms were right where they were at, and so it was a very quick and nice way to go. Yeah, I would love to go that way. But, no plans in anything, so you just gotta let it slide. But I was there, and I witnessed her process. Yeah. And for her, the way it worked was that she was hanging around for about a half hour. And just looking over herself and walking around. And then she was asked to leave. And she did. She went, like they say, go into the light. And she did. And that's about as far as I saw. I couldn't see anything else. I know that she and I met then, and I introduced her to a lot of people that she used to know. I know this all sounds, oh, that would be great. Well, I mean, that's just the way it is. For her, that's the way it was. And there was no struggle. She was extremely happy. And so would you. So she passed, and, that's not an easy thing. Because Annie Jean was everything for Shambhala. She was everything. Anybody who's ever talked to Shambhala talked to Annie Jean, so there's tens of thousands of people out there who are going to miss her. She motivated, got these tools into people's lives. She did nothing else. She was on the phone all the time. And she was as happy as you can get, talking to people, hearing their miracles and being able to pass those on. That was her day-to-day life. I couldn't ask that of anybody. That's a gift. That's a blessing. She took the opportunity and she received it. So that's a lot of years in her life that she was able to express herself in a way she would have never. And she would have never seen herself in the way that she sees herself. And to her, it was a fulfillment of a long time dream. So she really was very happy. She went through more shit than anybody I ever met. She fell down a 2-story building, broke her ankle. She should have been dead. And, yeah, she gets through that. Ankle broken in half. And she just carries on. She didn't go into shock. She just kept calling out, hello, hello, underground in a building that's completely empty. No chance of anybody finding her, But because of this place, there was that sensitivity and she was found. We got her out and helicopters came and took her and fixed her up. Brought her back, and it's been a long time getting her back on her feet. And she was able to walk, and she was able to live, and she wasn't limping around, she wasn't in pain. It was a miracle. And I watched one miracle after another happen to this lady, where she should be dead, just by accident. Not by old age, not by, the nature of life, but the shit that took place in her life would have killed many people, but she was so strong, that she just waded through it. And, she broke her hip, she had knee surgery, she had ankle surgery, you name it. That lady had it happen to her. And yet she was always the most faithful, understanding person. It's really powerful, really amazing. So I'm just going to show some video here of our beloved Venerable Ani Jean. Not enough memory. I got another way. I'll get it to you. This computer's in a very interesting state. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway. kind of insane to think that she's not here. It really is. It's crazy. But she will be back. Be assured. Yep. The biggest reason for the tears is because, you live with people, and that makes life. It's your relationships, and if you haven't got it like this, if you don't think like this, you can't send your love to other people. So crying is a good thing. Yeah. And the feeling of loss is true. Even though she's coming back, her name will be a totally different person. She'll be another person. Chances are you'll probably not meet her and know it, unless I have something to do with it. And in this cycle of time, over the next 10 to 15 years, I have a grand number of Tulkus that are coming my way to help me in this process. So that we can, as a group, begin having collective dreams through me. And I could start finding and identifying and certifying reincarnated saints. Whether they be second degree initiate or third degree initiate, if you make it to the second, as far as I'm concerned, you're a frickin' saint, And I'll make sure you're assured, while you're alive, so we catch you when you're young, and we start this Tulku scenario in America, and help manifest the changes that this world needs to take in stages of reincarnation. That this isn't the place we're running from. This is the place we own. We come from this place. Oops, that was weird. Yeah. So Earth service is a process of reincarnation. And the difficulty of it is what we have to go through life and how we die. And through reincarnation, we can feel the energy of the soul continuing. So if we just understand that is what goes on, and say 5 years from now, this lovely soul will be close to 4.5 years old, and radiating, and you'll pick it up, because it's part of you, it's just what it is. You can't deny it. It's part of the reason why reincarnation takes place, is to fortify us and not drain us. Nothing's lost. You can't take a physical thing and get rid of it and have it be lost. It always transforms into something else. You can't just gone. So when that transformation takes place, it means something because it's part of God's plan. We don't know what that piece now represents. It's a whole new puzzle. And a person's very big in that puzzle. And the more and more we go through this thing that I'm talking about, the more and more we'll play a part in ourselves. A feeling that we really are part of this puzzle. And that we fit. And that we actually fit in a specific way. So when we reincarnate, it's much easier to recapitulate and find the corners of our area, our space in life. Because if we don't have this process, really clearly understood and working, then we have a great deal of astral influences going on with a lot of lower mind going on. And we need the soul from people after they die. We don't want to take their soul. We want their soul to continue. And it benefits us. I already know many people who were here in the past who have died. And I feel them. I feel their reincarnation. I don't feel their loss. As time goes on, I feel less and less their loss. And I feel more and more their reincarnation. I've been really blessed because I've actually found a few of these, and just stand there and I'm like, what? This is so amazing, because these are normal Western people that I find as Tulkus, right after they die, and one you can't miss, just jumps back into the same group in the same area in the same location, so that's easier, but that's the way it is with a lot of Tulkus. Tulkus quite often find themselves back into the same region of higher Tulkus that they came from, family members or relatives or things like that. Even a grandfather would reincarnate back into a very close-knit part of that family and come back as a kid, and not uncommon in the hierarchy and in even the lesser levels of the hierarchy. It's all part of the reincarnation in right relationship, so that we're not walking around, in a daze, trying to make it through this cloud of brand newness, and always in shock of, will I really be able to survive, or do I really know what I should do, taking the next step, making choices in life. If it's not part of our recapitulation and our life's plan, and you get that with the soul. So that's why it's important for Ani Jean and everybody else to have gone through what they went through, and gain their soul to such a degree so that when they leave their body, they're still connected to the ashram, they're still connected to their soul, but because of that process of the previous life connection, it recapitulates into the fiber of the next incarnation. So I don't know of anybody who's actually come here, stayed here, liked it here, enjoyed it here, and befriended us, who's not, gonna, when they die, gonna find their way back here. And this place is gonna be a monument, just like the Great Pyramid and other things that will last so long. And it'll be the honing point for us to know that we're actually from Shambhala. This place you read in the Himalayas, you can think, as you first start out, you can think, I've got to be nuts to think that I'm from Shambhala, But right now, you're in Shambhala, and right now, you're students of Shambhala, and right now, your activities of Shambhala will move through you and through all your next incarnations, and you will always be from and going back to Shambhala. And the whole earth is Shambhala. I'm gonna make sure you're aware of that, through all your lives. But this is the origin of where Shambhala comes from. This is where the teaching comes from. This is where the healing comes from. This is where all the synthesis of all the mysteries are worked out. Right here in Shambhala. And all the new things, your life and all your things that you're going to do in your choices are based on this reality. But this Shambhala is totally based on reincarnation. And that soul is manifested within the collective consciousness. It's a collective soul. So it really does take this series of events, building Shambhala, setting this up, allowing people to come into my life, get closer, which is harder for me because I don't even like pets. Pets die. People, things die, It's not that I don't like pets because they're going to die, It's just that I don't want to do anything wrong to anybody or anything. And when they die, I can feel anything I might have done wrong. So having a pet or, all these things, it really, it's going to come back on you, when that happens. And having a pet is not a good thing. So I could just only imagine the karmic unraveling of not feeling so good about having that pet. Now you got to go get another one that's almost the same name, everything, because you're just so screwed up. Does that make sense? Because no pet, even though you may think it's happy sitting in your house at your feet, eating canned food, and surviving, it only knows that if it was outside, it'd be starving, and that's where it's at. It's in a state of survival. It's an animal, and it's only choosing one horrible thing over another, and this one's comfortable. This one has a house. This one has someone who's maybe won't beat me. Maybe will feed me. Maybe will treat me in a nice way. You know, But on the outside, chances are none of it's going to happen. Yeah. But we shouldn't be having these animals sitting in the city. We shouldn't have these animals in the positions they're in. It weighs on our soul when they all die, when they do die, to the point to where we're wondering whether or not we should eat meat, because we feel so karmically connected to the negative influence that comes from this animal reality and our relationship to it, pets and all that. Yeah. So it's everything, whether it be a human being or an animal or a place. Yeah. It can have soul. And if we treat everybody correctly or anything correctly, then you will give it soul. Yeah. If you choose the right car, that car will have soul. If you choose the wrong car, your wrongness and all things that collected into that is not going to allow the soul to manifest. So your choices, manifest the soul. Does that make sense? And everything. As you go through it, you find out that everything, since it has a soul now, it only can evolve. So that wonderful electric car that you're having can only evolve so fast beyond your wildest imagination, because this frickin' thing has a soul. All the other things always stayed the same from 1940 all the way to today. Oh, it's a stick shift. Oh, it's automatic. Oh, wow, automatic. Wow. Yeah, that's soulless shit. Yeah, that's stuff that is in inertia, that's in your astral plane, and So everything's got a soul. Yeah. So it's really the main purpose for Shambhala and for Ani Jean to become a nun and for us to do the things that we're doing is to activate that soul, to help bring that soul into activation. And it's nothing, there's no part of it. There's no clinic you can go to. There's no therapy you can go to. There's no person you could talk to as a psychologist or as a master or anything that will help bring that soul. Only Christ. Yeah. Because there is an off scenario that happens in relationship to the creation of the soul. And you can see it all the way back to Adam and Eve. You can see it all the way through the lives of the avatar. That the burden is on the relationship of trying to have a relationship with that person. Whether you be a disciple or whether you be anybody in the lives of the avatar. Yeah. Those people have to develop their soul. And yet they're really not. They're working through it, like the 12 disciples. Why are we here? I don't even want to be here. It took a long time to move humanity to the point to where people who really are going to be in relationship to the avatar and be soulful, all their perversions and all those things need to be cleared out of the way before we get to this place. So it took all the way to this time for me to physically take this incarnation and clean this place up to the point to where Ani Jean was in a position to where she can do what she dreamt to do, what she was incarnated to do. Yeah? And we all have this. It's just that many of us just didn't do anything right in our last lives. It was so hard. So much poverty, so much culture, so much mom and dad asshole. That we couldn't get out into the process of being independent enough to find our soul. Working in the military and all the things that went on all this time. And all that has been healed and released. And I've given people the hippie movement. I've given people all kinds of things in order to get the soul on this earth. Yeah. And she was in that. Even though she was a sergeant in the military, and a good one, really good, yeah, but that's her, she is a person who takes charge. She's a person who wants to be doing the right thing. And if you're going to be in the military, trust me, you're not doing it because you're perverted. You're doing it for an act of service. It's a scary thing to do, you know? And if you're that kind of person she is, then you're really doing it from the heart, you know? Yeah. And, forget what anybody else says. And imagine during the time that she was in, that was not a good time to be in the military, you know? So she was just living through her actions of service for what she can find to be of service. Yeah. And it really riled her when she became a nun because she had to cross-check everything, as to, oh my God, being a drill sergeant and everything isn't the same as being a nun. Isn't the same as being a student or a disciple of Christ or holy moly, I really got to loosen up, And she was on that every single day. Yeah. She was aware of the fact that she was coming from the past and coming from this hard place that she had to become because that was her personality. But when she got here, her soul had the opportunity to let that go and become who she is, which you saw in all the pictures. A very happy lady. Yeah. Very pretty, happy lady. Yeah. Yeah. So, here are pujas from the Anis. Let me do this one first. I don't want to mess this up. The Anis that are in Nepal, Gurumas, and Gurumas and all of her Anis. I asked them if they would do a puja for Ani Jean, and they did.
Ani Jean.
Let's start that over.
Ani Jean Upasika Yata Sukhawati Pune Basla Montaka Karma Bihari Tonkin Mapin Paki Murnan Sati Upat Yanachuna
That's so sweet. This is Dr. Raj's clinic, and a group of different lamas that serve at that clinic came to do puja for Ani Jean. Is the other Guru Ma's. Now, this is a lineage of nuns that go all the way back to Buddha's nun that he first made as a nun, which is his mother's sister. And she took care of him throughout his life. And then when she got to be much older, Ananda requested for her to become a nun and for me to allow that to happen. And no one else ever would allow a woman to take on spiritual responsibilities for a lot of reasons. At the time during the Kali Yuga, it's not a good idea. But coming out of the Kali Yuga, it is the only idea. So the whole intention is to close that door to the astral plane. And that's what the door to the astral plane is a door between separation of men and women. For whatever reason, that causes that. And usually it's grandizing one and making one smaller. Yeah, competitiveness. Yeah, and you can't find a place in yourself, you know, let alone a place of somebody else, what they're supposed to be doing, let alone yourself. Yeah. And so it was a competitive process, you know. And so throughout life, we've been through this, this scenario of just on the human nature quality. But it really has to end when we enter spirituality. When we enter spirituality, we actually find that we have a lot of debris left behind. And we have a lot of damage inside of society. Like right now, throughout the world, people think everybody's going to die. Yeah? And if the virus doesn't stop, everybody's going to die. God's in charge of everything. So whatever's going on, God's got a plan. Yeah? And I can't say God's plan is to stop this thing, or whatever. All I can say is that this is part of God's plan. And we are in a very, really bad scenario. Yeah. And as we look at it, because of people's lack of ability to take responsibility, their ability to respond in a selfless way, to where they actually, I would always say to the Sangha, if you get any symptoms, you must isolate yourself. Never feel bad about it, no matter how long it takes, because even after you finish your symptoms, you still have to wait. You have to isolate yourself. It's just the way it is. And you have to take upon your responsibility to do that. And everybody around us has to take on that responsibility to make sure food gets to them. Food gets taken away. So we did that. We do that. That's what we do. I do that because I believe that's what we're supposed to do in society. And so I'm just microcosm, macrocosm. I lay down very simple rules of humanity, how to be humane, and how not to harm ourselves in very innocent ways, but enough to kill us. Food poisoning, illnesses, viruses. If you don't learn this as the process I gave to learn it, it makes it a lot harder when it comes down to the time to begin to isolate in order to protect yourself and other people. Like right now, everybody's like, oh, I've never done that before. And yet it's something I've said since I was a child. Don't cough in front of me. Don't smoke in front of me. Don't do any of this stuff in front of me. It's in my environment. This is terrible. I am literally, when I was a child, I was dying all the time. I had asthma, I had polio, and asthma. So I couldn't breathe and I couldn't walk. I crawled everywhere. I couldn't get up on my hips. I couldn't use my legs. So for the first 3 or 4 years, I'm dragging myself around and I can't breathe because everybody in the house is smoking. So I make it through that. And by the time I'm 5, I'm out of my crutches and I'm out of my braces and I'm walking. So I made it through that, but still everybody's smoking. So I'd be put into the hospital at least once a year with no ability to breathe. And my mom would put a dehumidifier or humidifier next to me and spray this Vicks vapor rub around me, and that'll do it. My dad's way of dealing with it was to slap me, shock me out of it. You're not going to die. So that didn't work, nor did the spray stuff. So by the time I got to the hospital, my lungs were totally filled up. And I was literally dying. And it just kept going on and on and on until I was 17. And then the asthma went away. But it's because I got out of the environment. I got further and further from my parents. I got further and further from people who smoked and did things that ruined my environment. And I settled myself. I literally wrote a contract when I was 18 years old on my birthday, telling my mom and dad, you are not my parents. You never have been my parents. I am child of God. I'm incarnated from God. And you have to sign this. And my dad wouldn't, but my mom did. So from that time on, I left the house and I was completely free. And I healed. I went from everything that could be wrong with me completely went the other way. And that's the way it is with everybody. If we recapitulate and we focus upon our purification, just being a good person, just eating right, doing all these things that I constantly talk about, it'll get you through the first, the second, the third initiation, and on to higher and higher levels, that you can't even imagine right now. So the whole process of being able to purify has to do with whether or not we enter a spiritual reality. And in this world at this time, when I first came along, spirituality was astrology and numerology. And reading palms, doing all kinds of things that gave people instant ability to be a spiritualist, and direct people in ways that, and then, whatever else, you could then, give courses for being an astrologer, give courses for getting into Reiki, being a healer of any kind, because of this time, we have no real understanding of spirituality. So all these people who do read a bit, and find out about, there are such things as magnetic healers, certain healers in the East and things like that, they would then bring it, and say, I've trained under that. I'm Reiki. I'm a master Reiki. I'm the master who originally created Reiki, And it's just holding people into processes of more and more and more impurity. Because it takes away the spirituality. It takes away what it is we need to heal, which is to purify. To become spiritual, you have to purify. And you don't have to purify through, like in the Christian act, you'd be beating yourself, oh God, please, I have sinned, you go to the priest, I have sinned, eat me another wafer, hurry up, give me some more wine, I have really sinned today, and the priest is like, all over you, so it's hard to know what is sin, It's hard to try and get rid of impurity and not take on 10 times more impurity. When you come into this place, and you're trying to do better by your relationship, but you got this lady who goes, well, let's talk to the psychic. 900 line comes on, 1980s, everybody's like raising the bill on the telephone line because they're talking to psychics. And all the wives are talking to psychics, they're going from one boyfriend to the next boyfriend to another one, well, she told me that, and you'd be guided by this delusion of astral desires, and it would move you through a place to where you think that you're gaining power. And that influence is what really holds back the process of purification. Because every time we move into one of those places, we're finding out that in reality, we're actually conjuring up elemental forces that are screwing people up, messing up their chakras, and we don't even know this is going on. So I come along, and I have a whole other story to tell. I have a story of saying the chakras don't work the way anybody says they do. And there's a thing called the 7 rays. Have you heard of it? Well, it is the science of God. And I just go on and on and on. And then it's geomancy, and then there's sound and tone. And then there's invocation and evocation. All these things are things that you must learn in order to gain purity. Because if you don't, you move into this inertia. And people around you have already taken certain relationships to deluded spiritual forms, realities, and thought forms and ideas. Yeah. So it's a constant battle while people are trying to get through and understand what spirituality is. Surrounding them is a whole bunch of false prophets who have no idea what true spirituality is. They have no idea. They're making it up as they go along. And they're living by pride alone. Yeah? Delusions of grandeur within pride. Yeah? So those forms of impurities really do affect people from taking on the step that Ani Jean did. The ability to become a nun. She attended darshans. Yeah. And then she'd go, wow, I really understand what he's saying. The first time I really understand such things. And he says we ought to become nuns. Well, I definitely want to become a nun right now. What do I got to do? And I've already got homeless people living with me, all wanting to become monks and nuns, because that's just how it was, People, when they want to become a monk or nun, I ask them, first of all, you can't own a house, you can't have any bills, So basically, I'm asking you, start off by being homeless. And I'm really not saying that. I'm just saying liquidate, clean up, purify, get to the place to where you don't have a lot of attachments that, like you got to pay $5,000 in bills, and yet you want to be a nun. You'd just be so frustrated and so anxious as to how you're going to pay those bills and whether or not, the monastery would take that responsibility, because you're a monk or a nun. Yeah? And it's not even something that should be even a question or a process. Yeah? But it is things that go on. So when people become a monk or nun, my whole reality is to give them the freedom to become a monk or nun. Just do the right thing. Yeah, just do the right thing. Yeah, and it keeps them from the hands of the false prophets. Yeah, that's the only job that I got, because these people really do want spiritual direction and guidance and help. Yeah, but there's nothing out there. You can turn to the newspaper for your astrology report. You can call your local psychic for your day-to-day reality check. Or you can just sit around in frustration and think that there really is, nothing but the church, or nothing but becoming a Muslim, or maybe nothing at all. Maybe there's not even a God. Yeah. And the questions about God and the questions about whether or not we should be monk or nun, is something we should be at. We should be at a place purified enough to where we have a realization of the coming of Christ. We have the realization of the response to the coming of Christ, which would mean, just like dying before, I didn't do what everybody said, I didn't just go grab 12 people and say, you are chosen, elected. I grabbed 12 people to say everybody is to become a monk and nun. Everybody. Not you chosen 12, but everybody. And if you read the Bible, that's pretty much what I'm talking about. That's all I did. Yeah? And I save people and I help people, but I mainly moved people to realize that, the only way through this thing is through me. Yeah? And this isn't, make it or break it all in one life. This is a long-term thing, so I call it discipleship. Yeah? It's not something you start and you go back and forth, or you make your bid with God. It doesn't work like that. Yeah? God is committed. My taking an incarnation is really a freaking commitment. Yeah? Coming back and taking these incarnations, and you have no idea that I'm always taking incarnations. It's just that there's never been telephones, there's never been airplanes, there's never been a way of knowing that I'm around. So my activities in Tibet certainly wouldn't be showing up in California or in England. They would just know me as one of the main masters of Tibet. But at that time, even knowing those terms, was a real shocker. to the average human being coming across us, you know. So the influence of humanity to come to the state of purity that it needs to get the soul is things like Ani Jean, the process. It's not, I've got to do this sort of thing, but I'm just showing you that doing this sort of thing has an enormous benefit, and not just for her, but it is, she spent a good 17 years, in this thing, and doing what she did on a day-to-day basis, and it made transfiguration in her, to where the point, just a few weeks ago, she thought she was a freaking hippie. Yeah? And she was really feeling it, that I'm really feeling I'm a hippie, And there was, it's because she was, the very being that she would have been, could have been, is, was expressing. And she could see herself in this reality of that happiness and that much, everything that I talk about, she could have a great inner relationship to it. Yeah. And that's the way it's going to be in the future. That's the way that having this kind of spiritual connection, it isn't like the kind you would hear about by a Reiki person or by a Catholic priest. Yeah. My thing is very different. Very different. It's really quite different. Yeah. And it will go as fast as it can go. Yeah. But it doesn't depend on me having masses of millions of monks and nuns. As time goes on, I will. Yeah. As time goes on. Yeah. It took this much time to get her to this place. Yeah. And I didn't build this place, before that. I built it after she came. So there was a lot to doing all the enthronements and doing all the things that I did was to assure this process of these monks and nuns of the future that will be in this process of the group, that I'm talking about, the reincarnated process of real, true disciples. Yeah, and it's not governed by what you do in this life. She took 17 years to get to that point. Yeah, and she's going to reincarnate, and life will be very different for all of us. Yeah, and that's the benefit of commitment. Yeah, it's not, you come into something like this, there is no such thing as temporary scenario. This is a very long process because it has to do with the same thing I do. I reincarnate. So my thread is long. It's a freaking rope. It's really intense. It's not a fine thread between lives and I can't really connect. Each life has a fiber. Does that make sense? They all make sense. They all connect. You got to start that path. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, in order for you to get what I'm telling you, because there's not another way. Yeah, every life is a path, and every life you are making, a thread that is committed to the soul, to the work that you are meant to be doing under the overshadowing blessing of Christ. Yeah, and that keeps you out of the dark lodge. It keeps you out of processes and allows you to purify day by day by day by day. And that's how you build that thread. It's called the Sutrama. Yeah, there really is a name for this science. There really is a name for this stuff that I talk about, just kind of off the tongue, But it's a really ancient process. And for us to gain the soul, we have to gain that thread. And I know Mandarava's father attained that thread. I know her mother attained that thread. Yeah? Yeah, that's a very difficult thing to do, but I witnessed it. I walked them through it. Yeah? Because it's all about commitment. Yeah? My ability to stay committed allowed them to refer to commitment. No matter how they may feel, no matter how they may say, no matter how they may react to me, even before, past, or future, none of that had anything to do with me. I was committed. Yeah? And I knew them, I see them, that's the way I am with everybody. I do not have an in and out scenario. Yeah? So that energy gives an overshadowing to people, allows them to develop a sutrama before they die. And that's a very difficult thing because it's a thread, an energy that comes from your altar major, it goes up through your chakra, out your crown. It's part of your death and your life cycle. The first ray to the fourth ray, all these chakras are more than what you can ever imagine. Yeah, and by me helping you develop the sutrama, by listening to my music, yeah, by having my tools, by having a relationship with me, I, honest to God, can guarantee you're going to develop sutrama. Yeah, and that thread will go with you for eternity. Yeah, and it will pick up the threads of the past and heal them, so that you will not have any incongruency in your commitment with God. Does that make sense? It's just because the thread isn't held long enough in a life in order to gain the sutrama that will connect you. Yeah? But this does work. Yeah. Trust me or not, it works. All right, so let's do meditation. I'm going to start by doing a little drum first, and then I'm going to do the meditation. If anybody's got to pee real quick, does anybody? Don't worry, Tim. I've been psychic for a long time. Good to see you, Tim. Tim is a very old friend. Just ask him how hard it is to gain sutrama. Just like in her and in Ani Jean's case, you go through trials to gain sutrama, and it could drive you crazy. You may think you're going crazy, but you come out the other end, and you're actually dispelling glamours that are deep inside that are not yours, but they're projections. That you take on from your birth and even from previous lives, that hundreds of years ago, that you never got to clear up. And they don't come back around till you come across me, and all of a sudden everything comes around. All the things that didn't ever get cleared up all come back, and you get to clear them up. So there's an enormous amount of change inside of humanity that over the next 10 years is going to change a lot. This process, I've been teaching about us getting to a point to where we'll teach from home. Kids won't be going to school. The operating system that makes humanity will be much more along the line of the crafts that we can develop and the services that we can provide. And working at home in a home-based situation where we can make an income enough and lower, our expenses, and get that to a point to where it would work out better for all of humanity, less consumption and everything. Well, this virus is really pushing that into effect. All the schools are now going online, and they're asking them, so do you think you're going to continue this when this is over with? Because they're finding it actually can happen, and it's not bad that it's happening. In reality, this could be an alternative, an opportunity. Same thing with Tesla or other companies that are very, very adamant about their desires and to fulfill their grandiose desires. But under a situation like this, those same elements of ability can move toward doing things for society. Like right now, Tesla is going to start making units for people to breathe with. Inhalation. Because they're completely ran out of those systems. They just didn't have enough. So he's focusing on getting those built and made and out. And they're the kind of people that can pull this off within, say, 48 hours. Easy, not a problem. And if it continues, robotic designs could take care of the planet and getting these things out to the entire planet. And then same with all the other industries, including Amazon or anybody, any industry, anything. Like right now, there's Apple. It's putting millions and millions of dollars, as much as they can. They got trillions, but they're doing right. A lot of people are moving in that direction. Bill Gates wants to fix toilets, but now and stop all kinds of different other viral situations. But now he can put all of his time and attention and all of his ability that he has done to do the other things he did into this mass collective situation that hasn't anything to do with the Bill Gates situation. It has to do with a social need. And this really does fit right here and now a social need. So once we start doing that, then we have branches of new forms of industry and technologies that are facilitating what it is that we need all the time rather than just sometimes. And in a way that's inexpensive, in a way that is provided, that is high quality, tested, and it really works well. So those things, if we continued on the way we are, those things won't be prepared. Those things won't be in the system for our work and things that we need in life. So these things are really moving into opportunities for people to realize. No one even considered before of isolation. And isolation is one of the main things when it comes down to illness. And yet we never, we consider it, but most of the time the commercials say, take this and go back to work. Take this and carry on. But us homeopaths are going, but this illness is not an illness. This illness is a symptom of our system. And that we have a healing crisis going on, and we are susceptible to that healing crisis. Now, we can't necessarily take the homeopathic, but we can clear our impurities by isolating ourselves and not making ourselves available to this, weakening scenario. Because every time you get sick, it weakens you. And that way your constitution gets weaker. And anything that would get worse later will get worse, and it'll kind of grow into something that could be really traumatic and deadly. And yet, if we were staying pure and clear and far away from such things and never even get a cold, we'd find that our real good immune system is highly developed, and our actions of activity is that of good character. Right now, we really don't know. Humanity doesn't know activities behind good character when we're running around worried about whether or not, I'm a man or I'm a woman. How can we possibly work towards spirituality or the development of good character, or whether or not we should be isolated? Because we have so much self-oriented confusion going on that would keep us from these natural, humane things like learning how to cook and learning how to, garden and learning how to eat properly and, take the opportunity to lose that extra weight, and do some exercise. All these things that are needed to develop character. And that's the initiations. That's your purification. Is stepping away from what it is that's actually killing you, and that's you. So it's really quite a process that we're in right now with all this virus and everything. But it's an opportunity, if you see it for the way I look at it. It's an opportunity because it fits right along the line with the things that I'm saying should take place in the future. We need these schools working in this way. We need people to know that maybe they don't need that job. Maybe all these businesses serving all that shitty ass food, and treating people the way they do, maybe only the good ones should survive. And if it really is good, people around you will collectively sponsor you to get back in there and do it. I've seen that in so many places. People who run street vendors, they step back because the Chinese are saying, no more street vendor. But the person has so much heart, and they're so good, and they're so clean, that all the neighbors are saying, please make us noodles. Please. I can't live without your noodles. Well, okay. So you can make a bunch of noodles really fast in the morning, get them out real quick, and run, so they don't get hit by the cops. Yeah, yeah. But even, I mean, that's isolation to the worst. Yeah, really keeping you from doing your job. Yeah. So I believe that they're in the soul quality of people when we really are the ones who are really providing a service that needs to be provided. Those jobs will continue. Yeah, and ones that we need will be built. Yeah, and more people will be moving in those directions to help support that. Yeah, so I see a whole bunch, rather than the negative of, oh my God, we're all dying. I see the process that we're all moved through something that we should have developed character, and now we're finding that no one can obey rules, and no one believes in those rules. And then now they're going, oh, wow, that probably is a good idea. Just like, oh, I don't need an electric car. We're going to all learn this stuff really fast within about a month and a half. A whole bunch of list of things that it would be really hard to learn and cooperate with at a later date when we grow to be these mature people after this process. Yeah? We will mature from this. Yeah? Rather, because that we're behaving immaturely. Yeah? Which is the biggest danger of this whole thing. The moment we stop behaving like the president who says, oh, I want this done by Easter. I want this done. I am totally bored of this. By Easter, this must be done. Yeah, well, and then the news reporters are going, do you realize what you're doing? You're telling all the people, that it's going to be over with, and they'll take it easy, it's okay, And he goes, you're a terrible reporter. That's the problem. Not me. You. Yeah. So that's the impurities we have to be aware of. And through this struggle, through this process, we're going to learn more about this guy Trump. Yeah. And people are going to find that, I really can't support something that doesn't support life. It doesn't support me, common sense. All of us as a group, we made these decisions, but he's the one asshole who's not going into isolation. And he's telling everybody, it'll be over within a week. And all the jobs are going to come back. All this kind of stuff. So through this, I believe that we are going to gain a lot of character and maturity. Yeah, so let's just relax through it and do our best. Yeah. Eat light, because it's going to have to last a long time. I hope you got your kettlebells, because you'd be able to do your workout at home like I do. And as up here, we don't have to go into isolation. If you isolate and seal the area, and it's been that way for a while, there's no need for isolation. But the problem is that we have no isolation, on this earth. People fly in, fly out, come, go, so it's a matter of choice. We're here, we got gates and all kinds of good stuff. So I hope you guys don't get what I got. Just kidding. Take it easy. Okay, let's do an invocation. Oh, I'm going to do drum first. Okay. One, two, 1, 2. Okay.
pollen bed of a lotus trunk, endowed with the most perfect and most marvelous siddhas. You're renowned as a lotus board, surrounded by a circle of many dakinis. Following after you, perfecting myself, I pray that you come and bless me and all mankind.
Okay, take a deep breath.
Buddha of the three times, Guru Rinpoche, endowed with all the siddhas, the feet of great bliss. May all obstacles be removed and Mara be subdued. We pray for your blessings. May all outer, inner, and secret obstacles be allayed. May all our aims succeed through your blessings. By this virtue, may I quickly accomplish the state of Ogirim Bhima, and may I establish all beings without a single exception in this place. Wonderful Buddha of limitless light, and to his right the Lord of great compassion, and to his left the Bodhisattva of great power, surrounded by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas measureless in number, joy and happiness, without limit in this land called Dewa Chin. May I be born there as soon as I pass from this life, without taking birth anywhere else in the meantime. Having been born there, may I see Amitabha's face. May the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions give their blessings that this wish be expressed and this prayer be accomplished without hindrance. Then may we quickly be established on the level of Buddhahood. I invoke the victorious Buddhas and their heart sons, together with the assembly of lamas, yidams, dakinis, and Dharma protectors, as numerous as the dust of the fields. To those sitting on the lotus and moon seat in the sky in front of me, I respectfully pay homage with body, speech, and mind. I offer the essence of the outer, the inner, and secret offerings in the presence of the Supreme Buddha. I regret my former evil actions and completely acknowledge my present misdeeds. I vow henceforth not to commit these negative acts. I rejoice in all the meritorious and virtuous activity. May the assembly of victorious Buddhas not pass into nirvana, but remain to turn the wheel of the Supreme Dharma and teach the three scriptures. I dedicate all my spiritual merit to the stream of beings in order that they may reach the supreme liberation. I pray that the Buddhas and their heart sons will hold me in their thoughts. May this excellent aspiration, which I am now beginning, lead me into the footsteps of the victorious Samajana, his sons, and the noble Manjushri. May the precious lamas, the glorious doctrine, be as all-pervasive as the sky. May they shine upon beings as the sun and the moon, and endure as the mountains. May the precious Sangha, the foundations of the teachings, be enriched by harmony, pure discipline, and the three trainings. May those practicing the secret teachings, the essence of the doctrine, maintain their vows and reach the final stages of development and fulfillment. May the benefactor of the teachings, the king of the Dharma protectors, increase the domain and support the teachings. May the servants of the teachings, the ministers of the royal lineage, have increasingly excellent knowledge and skill. May the prosperous householders, sustainers of the teachings, be at ease and free from sickness and danger. May the people of all lands, having confidence in the teachings, have happiness and comfort, free from all obscuration. May I, the yogi, remain on the path, not break my commitments and accomplish my intentions. May all these to whom I am connected be, by good or by bad karma, be held by the Buddhas from now until final enlightenment. May all beings enter the door of the peerless vehicle and attain the Buddha realm. By this merit, may we become omniscient in this attainment, after defeating all false and evil thoughts, to endless storms of birth, old age, sickness, and death. May we be liberated from all beings from the suffering in the three worlds. Om Mani Padme. 1,000,000,000 worlds. So many times I make reverent salutations to all the Buddhas of the three eras, to the Dharma, and to the excellent community. I pay homage to all the shrines and all the places in which the Bodhisattvas have been. I make profound obedience to the teachers and to those whom respectful salutation is due. This very day, I go for refuge. To the powerful protectors, whose purpose it is to guard the universe, the mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere. Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge in the Dharma, which they have ascertained, which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth. Likewise, in the host of the Bodhisattvas, I take my refuge. To the Buddha, for refuge I go. To the Dharma, for refuge I go. To the Sangha, for refuge I go. To the Buddha, for refuge I go. To the Dharma, for refuge I go. To the Sangha, for refuge I go. To the Buddha, for refuge I go. To the Dharma, for refuge I go. To the Sangha, for refuge I go. To all the truth teachings of the past, to all the truth teachings yet to be, to all the truth teachings that are now, my worship flows unceasingly. No other refuge than the truth. Refuge supreme is there for me. By the virtue of this truth, may grace abound and victory. All my life I go for refuge to brotherhood, are. My worship flows unceasingly. No refuge but the brotherhood. Refuge supreme is there for me. By the virtue of this truth, may grace abound and victory.
Okay, just relax. Clink, clink. Hey, open your eyes. Okay. So what you heard was taking refuge. Yeah. Padmasambhava is many atoms. Yeah. And taking refuge. And or Guru Rinpoche Puja. So, but if you listen to them, they're about everything that I just talked about. Yeah. And what happens within us. Like in the last one, you hear the relationship of taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Yeah. And, that the Sangha is a very big thing. It's just like taking refuge in the Buddha. Yeah. And that relationship is the relationship that goes with the whole of the two pujas. Yeah. Imagine, well, here we are, we're revering all the masters, all those who rightfully should be revered. Yeah? And I'm not pointing any hands at anybody, I'm just saying I revere all those who are qualified to be revered. Yeah? And that hits everything, not a specific, but it does what it's supposed to do. Yeah? Because that means Ani Jean and everybody else is getting blessed. Because they're in the Sangha. Yeah? And that, we're not trying to go, oh, this is a great person, or this is this, or this is that. But when this Dharma wheel turns, and we enter onto the path, which is what Buddha talks about, you must enter the path. You must. Yeah? And once you have entered the path, and everybody who's received my tools, those who are attracted to the tools, those who have gone, through all the shit, of going, wow, who is this guy? Why am I doing this? I don't want to tell anybody, I don't want to, all that, you had to go through, you know, 10, 15 years, people denied I even existed, even though they owned the tools. They didn't want to hear the music, because then it would be too much, as though somebody's actually doing this. This is where this is coming from, and I'm not the healer, I've got a weaver and I'm doing all my great work and all that, But for a very long time, even the Sangha was very difficult for them to say, this is made by Jesus the Christ, because then they're going to have to deal with all the shit comes at them by telling someone that. And they go, oh, come on now. All this made sense. This is beautiful. Great. I'm out of here. I mean, that all was great until you said that. And now I know you're crazy. Now I know you're just another cult. Gosh, I wish you hadn't said that. And then the Sangha comes back going, I wish we could take it off the CDs. Yeah? If we could just take that off, and just say meditation music or something, Buddhist chants. But shit, let's not do this like that, And it really was, it really was. They were really going through it. And they wanted to know if there was other ways that we could do this without having that happen, And I said, look, I waited 30 years, actually 40 years, before I would tell anybody who I was. And the first person I told who I was her, And I accepted that I would give a class at Harbin, and I would give this class, and, whoever shows up, I'm going to tell. I am Buddha Maitreya, the reincarnation of Christ, and these are all my teachings. And I did that. I did that for like 2 days for 9 hours a day, And yet nobody showed up. Come to find out, the lady who set it up actually recorded it and then said, oh, don't come. You can always buy the videos. Yeah, so that's better. That way don't worry about coming, just buy the videos, And they did, I didn't get any money. Yeah, but I got her. Yeah, Tara. Yeah, was sitting right in front of me, and she immediately was a Tulku. Immediately, I was able to recognize her. I was like, I'm coming out of extraterrestrials and demons and Satanists were surrounding me. There wasn't any connection to this working out. Other than me going through more shit. Just having to accept and tolerate these people, But then because she was sitting there, because she was in the same way, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, that I could revere that. I could just spontaneously revere it, even though in herself, those weren't characteristics that she was fully aware. She was looking for that in me, But that's what I saw in her, And that allowed me to speak freely. Because I knew that she would understand sooner or later. And that set the stage. Even if it's just one, it doesn't matter to me. As long as I'm not, talking to the same people I had been talking to, who's actually a bunch of false prophets and channelers of extraterrestrials and incarnated demons. Those are the people that surrounded me up to that date. So it's all about the reality of the activity of past life. And after we get to a point of purification, for 40 years, I took on stuff you would never imagine. You'd see it in the movies, extraterrestrials, greys, abductions, possession, depossession, all the weird shit, poltergeist, everything. Well, that was my day-to-day life. My average day-to-day life. I was with extremely well-known people who were demons. Incarnated demons who had names from the past history that made this planet fall. Those are the people God put me in their grace, in their situation, as though they are in charge. And, that was one heck of a ride. But in the whole process, I knew that as long as I continue doing this, I'm going to get through the other side, where there are all the people who used to be hippies, and there used to be all this world that I was involved in, and that is going to be cleared by the time I get to an age. I don't know when that's going to be, but when I get to an age that I'll be able to start teaching. So that allowed the invocation, the evocations, the processes. Even I had already established the making of my music and ready to get it out. But there was no way to externalize this stuff. Even my music was being taken by demons. And they were saying, oh, we want to put it on an album with other demons. And I said, no, I don't think so, And yet, you're thinking, wow, why not? You can be on an album, you'll have one out there, people will get to know you. No, I'd rather wait for the Sangha, and do this in the right way. So that influence is what is really the respect that comes with this process. This whole entire process of creating heaven on earth is a process of creating the Dharma. And what that is. And no one really knows what that really is. But you have no idea that you really don't have free will, and that it really is manipulated by other people who have vices. And just because that goes on, it confuses you to think you have vices. Because you're in it, and you're absorbed in it. You got to work for these people, you got to, clean for them, you got to do all kinds of stuff. So it completely devalues your reality behind, is there a Buddha, a Dharma, a Sangha? Is there such thing? You wouldn't even look for it. You'd be looking for, some kind of channeled device or a belief system of, maybe Atlantis, stuff like that. Or the extraterrestrials built this whole thing. But there's a process within the Sangha that has to do with the making of spirituality on this planet in the past. The pyramids weren't built by a bunch of animals, and it wasn't built by extraterrestrials. And we don't even have, right now, we don't have the conscious means to build such a thing, because we're not monadic, and we don't have the soulful qualities it takes to psychically do that. It's the ability of creating and working with psychic generators. And unless we have this Dharma reality made manifest, and we go through hundreds of years of developing the honed science of sound, vibration, and light, we'll find that we can lift objects. It doesn't matter what their weight is. And we can metamorphically change the shape of that object. It doesn't matter how hard it is. This is done by all masters. So only if we think of this term, what I'm talking about, that all the pyramids were created through metamorphosis. The stones were manifested, changed into their ability. Many people went through carving, breaking, trying to move, and all that kind of stuff. But the actual, real reality of it is, how did you lift that obelisk? Something that is so heavy, so ridiculous, you try and lift it once, it falls, it breaks, it cracks. And yet you have obelisks all over the place. Statues all over the place, pyramid all over the place. So to those who tried to do the structural thing, they weren't qualified in the way of those who actually were able to pull it off. So this was done by masters, rare human beings. Maybe a lot of only 40 or 50, all had the psychic ability to move these objects and make these things into manifestation the way they were meant to be. We're going to do that. We're going to use psychokinetic abilities in order to harness the right use of the gravitational field. The right use of matter itself. Harnessing the energy that's locked up inside of things that we can't really tap into, the prana and all kinds of things we cannot tap into. It's like it's, a miracle when it happens. But over these next few hundred years, we're going to be developing the Sangha. And the Sangha is going to learn the science of the Dharma. And the Dharma is going to teach you how we did that in the past. And we're going to go through this new scientific development of telepathic communication. Rather than, here we are in communication skills. We're high on the level of communication, high on the level of technology. But what's the next level? Are we going to stay at, physical technology and, physical industry and all those different things? We worked up those abilities. But now we're going to step into stopping the misuse of psychicism. And God's going to give us the grace and understanding to develop psychokinetic abilities. And harness that into a process to where we don't need batteries for this car. This car moves on its own. Yeah? And we don't need rocket ships to get us off the earth. And just like the flying saucers when they come and they move so fast in and out of places. Yeah? That is not done by fossil fuel, and high rocket engines, It's a totally different thing. And it's built into the understanding of kinetic energy, psychokinetic energy. And that's built into the technology. So then the technology literally has time transference, the ability to move through speed of light in a fraction of a second. Because your technology is based on that. So you just connect right into it and you move within it. Yeah? And you hardly see the ship or you hardly see anything because it's moving so fast. Yeah? And there's no worry about, crashing or anything like that because it's done telekinetically. Yeah? It's not like somebody's actually driving the thing. Yeah? It's a whole other game. Yeah. So it's not a world to where we turn more toward materialism, but we're going to come into more toward the Dharma, the Buddha, the Sangha, and what the new technologies are. Just like right now, we're getting electric cars and all those things. That's coming from clearing of astral psychic bullshit and healing people to the point to where they're willing to take navigation. They're willing to take autopilot. They're willing to accept electric cars. Yeah? And they're not losing anything. But there was a part of them that couldn't make that transition. Yeah? And it's that process that we're moving through. So the next 15 to 20 years, we'll start having that next stage where we communicate and we're working with actual high masters that when they take an object, you hold this object in front of a person and it literally becomes liquid. Yeah? I know people who do this. Yeah, and they're not, like charlatans or psychics or anything like that in the form of a psychic. They're actually masters. And they have this ability to metamorphosize matter. You see it in Padmasambhava, hands on rock, feet prints of Jesus Christ, feet prints of masters. They're not like standing there going, I want to make my feet print. They just happen to be standing there a long time. And when they walked away, they left an imprint. Yeah? And when they blessed the cave, they put the hand on the cave because they're blessing the cave. Because there were demons in this cave, if you read about it. There were a lot of demons in Padmasambhava's caves. And that's why there's a handprint there. And that's why just outside that cave, there is a rock that manifested outwardly of Tara, which he made manifest by putting his hand on the rock. Does that make sense? That's metamorphosis. Yeah? Tulku, in his relationship, Maitreya manifested in stone. Metamorphosis. Through the conscious vibration of Tulku, that was able to happen. Isn't that amazing? Yeah? Yeah? He's not like willing Maitreya to come, but his devotion is so intense that he can metamorphosize matter in itself and create a manifestation of Maitreya to increase his reverence. And that brought Maitreya into the world in the next level. Yeah, that's the kind of next stage that we're walking into, where we're invoking, evoking, and manifesting a change through metamorphosis, genetic changes inside of humanity. Not just changing this and that, but literally working with the masters. They can help with the resonance of understanding the rays, and working within geomancy, I can change the genetic relationships of humanity. So that all these suffering processes that we go through change. And they flip from a weakness to a strength. And then as we reincarnate and come back, we no longer carry any of those, those qualities. There are things that are energetically locked in the earth, impurities. Once we've cleared those impurities by behavior, like syphilis, that's one of the major homeopathics that's given to people in order to stop insanity and depression and all kinds of things that literally is as though they have the symptom of syphilis. But in reality, they have a miasm that comes from society having been so impure that it's inside the energetic field when you incarnate in your genetic stream. So it can make you susceptible to cancer. It can make you susceptible to all kinds of things. And that's all miasms. That's all impurities. So my work is to, when we're there and ready, I'm the teacher who illustrates and shows how these sciences manifest. And I can only do this with masters, Logan, Tulku, and the others. So they'll be here within the next 10 years, and we will be developing, from Naropa and, Logan, Tulku, and, the Karmapas, the amount of psychic kinetic energy that we're going to move through things is going to be dramatic. We'll see major planetary healing blessings on nations and people. Continents, that is very different than what we have today, because we have no unification within the hierarchy for me to pull this off. So we're just in the first phase, and having a beautiful Ani Jean, come through her phase and make it through it in so much grace. It's just the same process of the next stage for the masters to come in and hold their grace into their process of purifying and coming back online. Because the two Karmapas aren't pure. They can't talk to each other. They can't be. Kala Rinpoche is not pure. He's very upset, and he's been raped many times. That's not a good thing. So most of the masters have been deeply, deeply made impure during this cycle of life. So that's a major job for me. Because that was all done to make this a major job for me. But all the hardships, everything everyone goes through, is a way for me to help transfigure the difficulties in the mass of society. Because these masters only hold reflections of the rest of everybody else's impurities. And now it's all just, they're struggling with the fact that they're the center point to make the healing. So now it's just a matter of them learning how that works. So, Om, 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 and thank you very much, Ani Jean, for all your service, and all your future service. And thank you all. Enjoy.